we have kind of completed the wind part of the conference. And as you all know, the theme of the conference will be powering the world with wind and sun, which doesn't exclude the other renewables. But I think there's now a growing consensus that wind and sun will contribute most to a future renewable energy supply. Of course, hydropower, bioenergy, geothermal, they will also play their role. But we look in particular into the solar side. And now it's my pleasure to invite our colleague from the International Solar Alliance. It's my pleasure to invite Mr. Prasanta Kumar Mahapatra, who is the advisor of the International Solar Alliance, who will share with us his views and how wind and sun are complementary partners. May I hand over to you?
Honorable Peter Ray, Honorable Stephen Sanger, Dr. Ajay Mathur, Bhanu Jadhav, Mrs. Gauri Singh, Dr. Jami Hussain, Dr. Kasturi Rangan, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on which part of the globe you are. It's a pleasure to be a part of today's discussion, to share experiences and share the knowledge. And with your permission, I would like to share my screen. Just give me a minute. The problem coming on screen sharing. Just a minute. Allow Zoom to share screen sharing. There's some problem in sharing the screen this side coming in. Could somebody play my presentation?
Sean, I think we have the presentation here as well. Yes, now it's starting.
So there's some problem in the screen sharing here.
No worries. That's why we have the backup.
Yeah, I've just backed it up. It's not sharing actually. That's the problem.
But you can now go ahead and just please indicate when you want to see the next slide.
But how do I switch off this?
No, it's okay now. You don't need to. It's already fine now.
Fine, but I can't see the screen from your side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Can you see the screen? No.
We see now the first slide, wind and sun complementary partners.
Well, I can't see that. That's the problem. Maybe some other thing has done up. I got it. Okay. Please get it. No, it has gone again.
Sean? Oops. Yes, now it's coming. Oh, let's hope.
Okay, can I have the second, next slide, please. See, we all know that the Sustainable Development Goal 7 targets to ensure universal access to clean and affordable, reliable energy resources. Access to electricity in the poorer country had begun to accelerate. Energy efficiency continues to improve, and renewable energy is making impressive gains in the electricity sector. However, more than 770 million people still lack access to electricity around the globe, and more than 500 million of these are in sub-Saharan Africa. Focused attention is needed to improve clean and safe cooking fuels for 2.6 billion people, expand the use of renewable energy beyond the electricity sector. Energy is the dominant contributor to the climate change, accounting for around 60% of the world's global greenhouse gas emissions. Indoor air pollution from combustible fuels in households caused 4.3 million deaths in 2012, with women and girls accounting for 6 out of every 10 of each. The share of modern renewable energy rose to almost 11% of the total energy consumption, having steadily increased since 2000s, acceleration needed if we really want to utilize the energy, universal energy targets. This is basically the global energy access scenario, and we must keep this in mind whenever we are planning anything. Maybe it is wind, maybe it is solar, maybe it's the energy access, but these are the facts that we can't ignore. Next slide, please. More than 27% of global electricity is now renewable as for 2019 data. 72.7% come from non-renewable sources, and 27.3% of the renewable electricity. Out of that, 15.9% today, rather than 2019, came from hydropower. 5.9% came wind power. 2.8% came from solar photovoltaics. 2.2% came from biopower, and 0.4% only came from geothermal, solar, concentrated solar power, and ocean power. Next one. Over the past few years, both solar and wind have emerged as the most preferred source of the renewable energy to achieve the sustainable development goal. The graph in the right-hand side basically shows how the additional capacity that has been taken place from 2013 to 2019. So we see a lot of capacity addition has taken place in the renewable energy sector, particularly wind and solar. And solar photovoltaic, with the price reduction and improvement in technology, is picking up very high. In 2019, it has been 115 gigawatts, and wind has been 60 gigawatts. Despite the COVID-19 scenario, between January to October 20, auctionable renewable energy was 15%, renewable capacity was 15% higher than the same period last year, which is a new record. Can you have the next one? This basically again shows the renewable energy scenario, particularly solar and wind trend, giving the annual addition and previous year's capacity. So the solar photovoltaics now stands about 627 gigawatts, and the wind stands around 651 gigawatts. Next slide. Now, what is interesting that we must see what the World Energy Outlook 2020 said. As per the World Energy Outlook 2020 report of the International Energy Agency, COVID-19 pandemic caused more destruction to the energy sector than any other event in the recent history, leaving impacts that will be felt for years to come. Global energy demand is expected to drop by 5% in 2020, energy investment dropping by 18%, oil demand falling by 8%, coal use falling by 7%, and they say there is no single storyline for the future. What the World Energy Outlook 2020 says, the global energy demand is likely to rebound to its pre-crisis level only in 2023 level if we continue with our existing policy. It may be delayed till 2025. Let's hope with concentrated efforts of the nations, the energy demand rebounds earlier than 2023, we catch up by 2022. And the most vulnerable to be worst affected, revising several years of progress, will be the number of people who urgent date don't have access to electricity, particularly electricity access. Whatever gain we made in sub-Saharan Africa area is going to be undermined. A number of people in sub-Saharan Africa having electricity access is going to decline. So this is something we have to really ponder about and see and what can be done and for what can be quickly done. Next slide, please. Renewable energy is going to grow rapidly in both the scenarios, which means the stated policy scenario or a delayed recovery scenario, no matter what happens, as per the World Energy Outlook 2020. So it's a fact that renewable is going to be the new king. In fact, the report says solar is going to become the new king of electricity, with solar at the epicenter of new constellation of electricity generation technology. Electricity grid could prove to be the weak link in this. Transformation of the power sector implications, reliability and security of electricity supply will be affected because of the grid insecurity, grid integration issues. Coal demand does not return to the pre-crisis level, and its share by 2020 energy mix falls below 20% for the first time since the Industrial Revolution. The era of growth in global oil demand comes to an end in 10 years. But without additional policy boost, it is too soon to see rapid decline in oil demand. Natural gas demand will be slightly better. This is what we learned from the World Energy Outlook. Next slide, please. In view of this podcast, what are the opportunities and challenges that we are facing in wind and solar sector? I need not say much because my previous speakers have already covered this area. Energy demand will be increasingly covered by the widespread deployment of variable renewable energy sources in future, in view of their cost competitiveness and for being environmental friendly, both in the grid and isolated systems. Weather and climatic driven energy sources, as we all know, are characterized by significant spatial and temporal variability. That's going to be a challenge. Non-dispatchable energy sources like wind and solar photovoltaics cannot be controlled by operators. So that's another challenge. The wind and solar energy are omnipresent, freely available, environmentally friendly, but wind system operating in standalone mode cannot meet the constant load demands due to different magnitude of wind speeds from one hour to another. Solar-based energy systems also, while operating alone, is not able to provide a continuous energy due to their low availability, due to no sun period, and also during the winters. So the advantages are there, opportunities are there, the challenges are there. Next slide, please. The intermittent nature of both these sources of energy may cause instability in grid and may result as an unreliable source during the adverse weather conditions. One of the solutions to overcome the mismatch between the demand and supply produced by the variable renewable energy is the hybridization of the two or more energy sources, which could be wind and solar, solar and hydro, solar, wind and hydro. So this particular conference that we're talking about, wind and solar being complementary, that's something that we should be seriously examining into. The operation of hybrid energy sources is based on the complementary nature of the renewable energy sources like wind and solar energy. Studies have suggested that this complementarity can be improved by adjusting the proportion of solar and wind power. The inverters of the renewable energy power generators can be adjusted to provide reactive power for voltage control and could be programmed to provide inertia. Hybrid energy source increase overall system reliability and may reduce the cost of electricity. A hybrid energy source favor renewable deployment, reducing the need for large storage capacities like batteries. Next slide, please. This particular slide basically gives a old data showing how the complementarity of the wind and solar in a normal situation work. The solar peaks operates around the midday, and the early mornings and the evenings, the solar is a much lower level. But that's the time where the wind generates more. So if we're looking for a stable load system, wind and solar appear to be a natural complementary variable renewable energies. Next slide, please. This slide gives examples of where these solar wind hybrid systems have been successfully tried. Kavithal solar wind project in India, that's in Karnataka in India, which is a Raichur district, is an example where they had an existing 50 megawatt wind system. They set up a 28.8 megawatt solar system. Now this hybrid system is working very well. And the main purpose of the hybrid system is to address the grid integration concerns around the variable power generation from the renewable energy. Synod Park, UK, is again consisting of 3.6 megawatt wind and 4.95 megawatt of solar capacity in a hybrid system. The hybrid power plant has a grid connection capacity of 4.1 MVA. The main purpose of hybrid system to enhance and flatter the power output. Next slide, please. Lago microgrid, Colorado, that's in Chile. It's a border with Bolivia at a high altitude, 3,700 meters high. It consists of a 20.5 kilowatt solar capacity, 30 kilowatt wind, and 800 kilowatt hour of storage in hybrid system. The microgrid is in a remote area of the country, not covered by the national grid. The hybrid system provides 24 hours of continuous supply of electricity and economical as compared to use of diesel generator. So very successful model where a microgrid without any storage capacity is balancing out and providing power. Graciosa, Portugal is basically an island of Portugal, a 60 square kilometer area, consists of 1 megawatt solar PV, 4.5 megawatt wind, 3 kilowatt hour of storage in hybrid system. The hybrid system is designed to consume up to 100% of sun and wind power. The diesel generators are used only during the adverse weather conditions. Next slide, please. So these are those slides that we saw, that there is a possibility. So to recap what we discussed, that we have still 7.7 billion people having access to electricity. COVID-19 has brought down the generation of fossil fuel to the breaking point. Lack of access of energy is hampering efforts to contain COVID-19 in many parts of the world, particularly in ISA. We are trying to assist the member countries, particularly LDC and SIDS countries, to solarize their primary health centers so that the vaccines, etc., can be stored easily. Per unit cost of renewables have gone down, and to achieve this SDG 7 goals, we should have more retrofitting of solar photovoltaic technology with the existing onshore wind farms to provide a more stable output of the power. Developing off-grid standalone SWHS with battery backup provides reliable energy. Developing ultra-megawatt scale solar and wind hybrid systems with floating solar and offshore wind technology is a solution. So these are the things that we must examine and see what can be done. Next slide. Next slide, please. This one. So basically, then what we should be doing? To me, it appears that a complementarity, because these two energy sectors are between WWEA and ISA, there should be more of dialogues, and there should be more of experience sharing, and there should be more of collaboration. Basically, the studies of this complementary, we know about this, but not many studies have been done all over the world. Most of the research papers who are available, they are limited to Europe, North America, Brazil, and China. I think research study in India is maximum 2 or 3. Those sufficient studies are not there. So WWEA and ISA, if they can partner to study the complementarity, so that in the future, the roadmap for implementation of such hybrid projects for the regions in Africa and Asia could be prepared. The next area of cooperation that we can have is that International Solar Alliance has 47 member countries who are either small island developing states or the lesser developed countries. ISA is assisting them with a $50,000 assistance to develop prototypes, innovative solar power plants. So if WWEA and ISA can partner together and we develop hybrid models for the small island countries, because these countries are importing diesel and diesel price fluctuates and they have to be paid in the hard currencies, which brings the currency system in the small countries into difficulties. And winds are available in plenty in the island countries. Sun is available in the tropical countries in plenty. So when we are developing our pilot projects, can WWEA and ISA partner so that we demonstrate some combined projects, hybrid models, so that they're encouraged to meet their energy requirement and use diesel to the minimum. ISA is working towards one sun, one world, one grid. This is an area where WWEA and ISA can also partner and study the spatial compatibility of solar and wind for robust transnational electricity grid. ISA membership is now open to all UN countries. Currently, the members are from tropical regions only. Now that as the UN member countries are going to join and the ISA membership opens up, we can collaborate together and see how the countries with extreme latitudes could take advantage of the the temporal complementarity of the solar and wind power, because the solar power will be more available in the spring and the summertime, whereas the wind power in those latitudes are basically available more in autumn and winter time. So how we can collaborate together? There are opportunities. On 3rd February 2021, ISA is organizing a webinar on the grid integration of renewable energy. And that you know that more and more renewable power coming in, particularly wind and solar system, the grid is going to face a challenge. So this is an issue that ISA is going to examine in the webinar on 3rd February. Those of the delegates present here who would like to join there and share the experience, they're most welcome. So next slide, please. With this, I won't be taking much of your time. I'm available for any questions that may come up. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for a very, very insightful global perspective on not only solar power, which is your kind of main field, but I'm very grateful, of course, that you really underlined and presented the benefits of the complementarity and the synergies between the different, in particular, wind and solar resources. Of course, we're very happy to explore with you further what we can do together, and you have some concrete proposals here. Certainly follow that up after this webinar. Now, again, I think all these points that you raised are very important, and also looking at it from a global angle that your organization has, that we also have. WWA, we have members in more than 100 countries, both in the so-called South and North countries. Very happy about that. Again, I think it's extremely important to understand that renewables, all the technologies, they should not stand alone. They cannot stand alone. It doesn't make too much sense to stand alone, but we have to see the synergies. We have to see the partnerships. And I think Peter Ray has started using this term. I like that very much. We have to look into the symphony of the renewables, make them work together so that we have that brilliant sound as we know it from a symphony orchestra, where you have every instrument playing its own role, but all together make this fantastic sound that we all want.